The air inside the Pramac Yamaha garage at Valencia was thick, not with the smell of high-octane fuel, but with a palpable, vibrating tension. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu, the man they call the stop-and-go king, sat motionless on his stool. He wasn't looking at the fans or the cameras. He was staring at a flickering telemetry screen. For the last 5 years, he had been the undisputed god of late braking in world superbikes, a rider who could stand a motorcycle on its front wheel at 180 miles per hour and still hit the apex with surgical precision. But as the data scrolled past, a chilling reality began to set in. The superpower that had made him a legend was suddenly his greatest liability. In the world of MotoGP, the margins for error aren't just small, they are microscopic. They are invisible lines drawn in the asphalt by the physics of carbon and rubber. No one inside the paddock truly expected the sheer scale of the culture shock that would unfold during those first few laps. It was a moment that would change everything for him, for Yamaha, and for the narrative of the entire 2026 season. The world was watching, expecting a miracle. They wanted to see the man who conquered the world on a production-based machine immediately dismantle the MotoGP establishment. Yet, as he swung a leg over the brand-new, V4-powered Yamaha M1, the atmosphere felt less like a celebration and more like a high-stakes interrogation. The question wasn't just whether Toprak was fast enough. The question was whether he could survive a bike that demanded he delete every instinct he had ever spent a lifetime perfecting. And from that moment, nothing would ever be the same, because while the fans saw a superstar, the engineers saw something much more volatile. They saw a collision between a once-in-a-generation talent and a set of physical laws that refused to be broken. But what the paddock discovered next shocked everyone. Behind the calm expression Toprak maintains for the media, the pressure was building at an agonizing rate. He isn't just joining any team, he is joining a project that is effectively a Hail Mary from one of the most prestigious manufacturers in racing history. Yamaha, the house that Valentino Rossi built, finished the 2025 season in a state of absolute debris. They were the worst constructor on the grid. To make matters more desperate, they have abandoned their traditional inline-4 engine philosophy, a DNA they've held for decades, to build a V4 prototype. It is a technical revolution born out of pure desperation. And who did they choose to lead this charge? A rookie. A 29-year-old arrival from a different category who has never raced on prototype tires in his life. The context is staggering. Pramac Racing, the very team Toprak now spearheads, was once the crown jewel of the Ducati satellite empire. They were winning races and fighting for championships. But by the end of 2025, after their switch to Yamaha, they sat dead last in the standings with a pathetic 125 points. This is the graveyard into which Toprak is stepping. Inside the garage, whispers began spreading that the V4 project wasn't the silver bullet everyone hoped for. The bike entered 2026 surrounded by more doubt than confidence. It was a reboot, not a revival. Toprak was being placed at the epicenter of a technical storm, tasked with developing a bike that was still being written in real time. He wasn't just fighting his rivals. He was fighting the expectations that had been placed on his shoulders since his very first race in Turkey. Some mechanics claimed something felt off from the first shakedown. The bike was fast, yes, but it was nervous. It lacked the harmony Yamaha was famous for. Yet, the real turning point happened away from the cameras, in a quiet corner of the paddock where a man who knows everything about winning decided to speak. In the high-pressure cauldron of the MotoGP paddock, words are often used as weapons, but sometimes they are used as shields. Just before Toprak headed out for his crucial laps, a figure emerged from the Ducati hospitality, a man whose shadow looms over every garage on the grid. Gigi Dall'Igna. Dall'Igna is the architect of the modern MotoGP era, the man who turned Ducati into an unbeatable juggernaut. He is a scientist of speed. During a behind-the-scenes moment, he pulled Toprak aside. The air went still. This wasn't motivational fluff or PR posturing. It was a calculated, realistic warning from the man who knows exactly how high the mountain is. "You have to stay calm," Gigi told him. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "But a rider is a rider. They want the results as soon as possible." He paused, letting the weight of the paddock's history sink in. "You just need more kilometers on the bike, that's it. Because for sure, you can see that the riders are tight." Coming from Gigi, those words carried the weight of a death sentence or a prophecy. He was identifying the one thing Toprak didn't have: time. In MotoGP, you don't just ride the bike. You manage a complex ecosystem of electronics, aero packages, and ride height devices. Dall'Igna wasn't just being polite. He was observing the tightness of the field, the fact that the gap between first and 20th is often less than a second. For a rider used to dominating his environment, the realization that he might be fighting for 15th place was a bitter pill to swallow. According to insiders, Toprak's face changed after that conversation. The bravado of the world superbike champion was replaced by the cold, hard focus of a man who realized he was walking into a knife fight with a blindfold on. However, the twist that followed would change the championship narrative entirely. As the 2026 season approached, the MotoGP paddock split into two warring camps. On one side, the believers. On the other, the critics who think Toprak has just committed professional suicide. The loudest voice in this choir of concern is Neil Hodgson, a former world superbike champion who knows the transition better than anyone. His assessment was explosive. "Sitting here now looking into the future," Hodgson stated, "he signed for the wrong manufacturer." It was a staggering claim. Hodgson pointed to the turmoil inside Yamaha, a factory that is currently a shadow of its former self. He argued that Toprak's talent is being wasted on a development project when he should be on a bike that allows him to showcase his skills immediately. But it wasn't just Hodgson. The legendary Carlo Pernat, a man who has managed some of the greatest names in the sport, voiced a deeper, more structural concern. "Are you letting him debut in a year when everything will change the following year?" Pernat asked. He was referring to the looming 2027 regulations, the shift to 850cc engines, and most importantly, the switch to Pirelli tires. The irony is almost cruel. Toprak is a master of Pirelli tires. If he had waited until 2027, he would be entering a paddock that was moving toward his territory. Instead, he chose 2026, the final year of the Michelin era. He is forcing himself to learn a tire that is notoriously difficult to master, only for that tire to disappear 12 months later. Pernat didn't stop there. He described Fabio Quartararo, Toprak's new stablemate, as a prisoner at the factory, a world champion trapped in a cycle of technical failure. The narrative was becoming clear. Toprak hadn't just joined a team, he had joined a sinking ship. Yet the real reason for the alarm wasn't just the team or the timing. It was the physics of the bike itself. To understand why the experts are terrified for Toprak, you have to understand the Michelin front. In the world of SBK, Toprak uses Pirelli tires and steel brake discs. These components are communicative. They talk to the rider. They allow for the violent, spectacular front-end slides that have become Toprak's signature. MotoGP is different. It is a world of carbon discs and Michelin slicks. These tires do not talk, they whisper and then they scream. Gino Borsu, the Pramac team manager, watched Toprak's data during the Valencia test with a mixture of awe and anxiety. He realized that Toprak's greatest weapon, his explosive one-motion braking, was a recipe for disaster on a prototype. In WorldSBK, Toprak goes from flat-out to full brake instantly. In MotoGP, if you do that with a Michelin front tire and a ride height device engaged, the bike won't stop. It will lock. And as the experts bluntly put it, you will faceplant. This is not a matter of talent, it is a matter of physics. Sylvain Gintali, a man with deep experience in both paddocks, questioned whether Toprak's technique could even survive the transition. Can he do what he is doing in Superbike right now? He asked. I doubt it. The psychological pressure of this realization is immense. Imagine being the best in the world at something, only to be told that your very method is illegal according to the laws of the machine you are now riding. Toprak admitted the early days would be painful. He isn't used to seeing his name at the bottom of the timing sheets, but the pressure wasn't just coming from the bike. It was coming from the ghost of a legend. There is a reason Yamaha was so desperate to sign Toprak, and it has nothing to do with telemetry. Since Valentino Rossi retired, Yamaha has lacked a soul. They had the speed with Quartararo, but they lacked the global, magnetic aura that brings fans to the tracks. Toprak brings that aura. He is a superstar in his home country of Turkey, and he possesses a riding style that is inherently cinematic. Manuel Pachetti, his longtime mentor, sees this move as more than a sporting transition. He sees it as a takeover. Undoubtedly, if Toprak proves to be competitive, he could be a very attractive prospect for Liberty Media, Pachetti noted. He believes Toprak could be the first truly global star since Marquez, a rider capable of generating massive media attention worldwide. But this savior narrative is a double-edged sword. If Toprak succeeds, he is the hero who saved Yamaha. If he fails, he is just another Superbike champion who couldn't make the grade, joining the likes of Ben Spies or James Toseland. Rumors suggested deeper tension behind closed doors regarding how much marketing Toprak was expected to do versus how much testing. The weight of a manufacturer's recovery is now resting on the shoulders of a man who is still trying to figure out how to stop the bike without crashing. What happened next left even his closest team members stunned. The most difficult thing for an elite athlete to do is not to learn something new, but to forget something old. For Toprak, 2026 is not a season of racing, it is a season of unlearning. He has to unlearn the feel of the Pirelli rubber. He has to unlearn the way a steel disc heat soaks under pressure. He has to unlearn the corner entry load that he has relied on for a decade. According to insiders, the data from his private test at Aragon was eye-opening. He was fast, yes, but he was riding it like a superbike. In MotoGP, that wears the tires out in 5 laps. To be a champion here, you have to be smooth. You have to be clinical. You have to be boring. And boring is not in Toprak Razgatlioglu's vocabulary. This creates a fascinating psychological rift. Does he change his DNA to fit the bike, or does he force Yamaha to change the bike to fit him? History suggests that the bike always wins. Riders who try to wrestle a MotoGP bike usually end up in the medical center. Yet there is a glimmer of hope. Fabio Quartararo, after reviewing Toprak's data, admitted that he expects the Turk to be better than he originally thought. If the fastest man on the Yamaha believes in him, perhaps the unlearning process is happening faster than the critics realize. But even with Fabio's blessing, a massive obstacle remains on the horizon. As we look toward the 2026 season, we have to realize that we are watching a long-game strategy. Every expert from Hodgson to Pernat agree on one thing: 2026 will be a year of foundation. It will be painful. There will be mistakes. There will be high-speed incidents as Toprak finds the limit of the Michelin tire. He has already spoken with Marquez about the battles ahead, but those battles might not happen at the front of the pack. Not yet. The real twist in this story lies in 2027. When the regulations change, and the tires switch back to Pirelli, Toprak's year of suffering in 2026 will suddenly become his greatest advantage. He will be the only rider on the grid with a decade of high-level Pirelli experience, combined with a year of prototype development. Yamaha isn't just building a bike for 2026, they are building a champion for 2027. Toprak Razgatlioglu is not expected to walk into the paddock and immediately dethrone the giants, but he is expected to survive. He is expected to learn, and he is expected to bring a level of aggression that MotoGP hasn't seen in years. He is a rider who has spent his entire career thriving under intense pressure, thriving in the braking duels that leave others trembling. Now, he faces his greatest duel yet, not against a rival, but against the very nature of the sport itself. The 2026 project is a reboot. It is a gamble of historic proportions. And as the lights go out for the first race of the season, the world will finally see if Toprak Razgatlıoğlu can bend the Yamaha V4 to his will, or if the most unforgiving paddock in the world will finally break the man who refused to follow the rules.